Welcome to Linda's TV show. If it is your first time of stopping by or coming across my YouTube channel, you are highly welcome. Please subscribe, turn on your notification bell so that anytime I upload a new video, you will be the first person to check it out. Like you know, I present to you information across the globe, especially Nigeria to be precise. As we hop into today's video, please, after watching, leave your comment constructively and tell me what you think about the video and my channel. Now let's watch this video together.
That many in your shoes would be pained that in 2022 we still are discussing this and not discussing the initial thing you said, which is that it doesn't matter where this person comes from, what he professes, and so on. But we are. That presupposes perhaps that the politicians have learned nothing, and therefore the people, their followers, have also learned nothing. How difficult is it for someone like you to internalize that, especially because from 1966, you've been in the trenches against this, and still, now, you are in the trenches against this. Only the characters have changed.
Yes.
The points are still there. I shudder to think how people like you look at it. Some of your colleagues or immediate juniors have simply given up and just walked off. But you haven't.
You know something? The first admission I must make is that very often I've said to myself, you have an option, walk off. I found it impossible to blame my colleagues who've given up on this nation. I find absolutely impossible. The question from time to time is, yes, what am I still doing here? I intervene. When I can't meet heads of state physically, I phone them on critical issues. Where they were saying, Obasanjo, you're taking IBB, you're taking Jonathan. I've never phoned Buhari, but I have met him one-on-one, which I took a message to him from one of the embattled. Well, they said, who trusted me? He said, I was the only one that would trust to deliver this message. And I met him. The others, I would pick up a phone and call them and we talk. Very often I say, I have a choice. I can walk off. Don't ask me why I haven't. I think it's just laziness. The idea of uprooting completely and starting all over again. And in any case, what I call the honorable spots of the world shrink by the day.
When the most recent outrage occurred in the Southwest, in the case of Owo, when the Catholic Church, you went to visit the governor of Ondo State. And you said something to him which so many people said needed further elucidation. You said, you know that we know who these are. They're sending us a message. We've got that message.
Well, that's part of your answer, you see, is that my temperament does not accept easily that anyone should chase me out of my God-given earth. So it's a temperamental thing as well. The idea that you can unleash terror on me because you want my little patch of territory, or you want my soul. That is, you want to subjugate me. You want to turn me into a slave. Well, I will sort that out first, and then I'll make up my mind whether I want to leave. So each outrage, unfortunately, has the opposite effect. Whether the outrage is taking place in Benue, whether it's taking place in Kaduna, whether it's taking place in Owo, or whether it's taking place right here, along the border. You know, we've been subjected also to this lunacy of this subjugation mentality, which some minority people hold. And I find it very difficult to accept to be chased out of my own entitled portion of the earth. So ultimately,
how much of this would you put down to a lack of understanding of history? That is, in our own part of the world, a lot of people don't read. A lot of those who read for the purpose of passing exams and getting certificates. Once that's done, they're no longer interested. So most of the time, you have the vast part of the population not able to look back, see that this has happened before, seeing the result, and therefore, upon seeing something similar about to happen again, are able to say, hey, hold on. We've seen this before, something you referred to as deja vu earlier.
Mm-hmm.
How much, because I've spoken to a couple of people who have said, there's a nexus between our lack of literacy, our lack of understanding of history, and where we are as a country. That because no country grows beyond the education or the literacy of its people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting that you use the word history. I hear many people just either do not know history or do not understand the purpose of history. And then there's a different group also who are very selective about history. They know how to distort or misuse history. Take, for instance, when this incursion of the Fulani herdsmen began, and the Mayeti Allah, their spokesman, said in Borno, I think it was in Borno, said, we once ruled this place, and we can take back our land anytime we want. Remember that statement? I've forgotten it. In the midst of this, the harrowing, the trauma of these people, somebody comes gloating and then citing selective portion of history. As that man was a criminal, and I said it at the time, I said, this person should be arrested and locked up. Who says he wants to repeat this history of conquest? He's actually doing it. He's admitting either knowledge before, after, or support anyway. And ask the question, so why are you, isn't there anything like hate speech anymore? Why are you proscribing Ipob without proscribing Mayeti Allah? Whose spokesman dares approve the killing, the dispossession of people? Who's choking off our breadbasket, at least one of the directions of the feeding of this nation, chasing farmers of the nation, creating a situation of food scarcity, one of the biggest security threats you can launch against any people, either internally or internally. So that's also a way of knowing history, but disowning history, because you only take a small portion, you disown the rest of it. It doesn't exist. Again, if I may cite Putin, the same thing Putin saying to the Ukrainians, you are once part of us. We have a right to continue to dominate you anytime and to take you back anytime we want. What kind of human beings will accept that? Ukrainians are proving themselves one of the most courageous people at the moment. But it's interesting that you should raise the issue of history, because I would like to use every opportunity to ask, who was it that actually terminated the teaching of history in schools? Do you know that many of us didn't know for a long time that history was no longer being taught in schools? It was only a casual statement by Fashola at one time, I remember. I had to phone him. I said, wait a minute. I heard you said something the other day. Are you sure you have your facts right? He said, go and check. The history has been removed from the school curriculum. So now, those who removed them, they weren't fools. When I made inquiries, they said, oh, there were not enough teachers. Absolute balderdash. I mean, it was an insulting kind of excuse. No, they just did not want history to be taught, especially contemporary history. They didn't want people to know and learn from our recent history. Things that led up to the Civil War, the conduct of the military during the Civil War. And they're just cutting their noses to spite their faces, because there were also positive aspects. There were certain lessons learned here and there, from that episode. Even the attitude of governance of each person has, to some extent, in their own way, contributed to the building of democracy. At the same time, literally all, without exception, including Yaradua, who stayed for
the least,
just a short while, contributed to the erosion in many ways, which I can detail if we have the time, to the demolition or deterioration of democracy. I've given an example of closure of the House of Assembly. That is the base. Take the local government, then you move to the House of Assembly. These are our representatives. You take our voices away. You take our voices away, you cheat us, and you turn us into mutes when you lock up the House of Assembly. And you lock it up and you put police there at the expense of our own taxes. We're paying for destroying our own democracy. I find that kind of action really unforgivable. So the negatives, the positives. I've just said this about Jonathan. At the same time, Jonathan will tell you that I had great respect for him, especially the way he contributed by conceding defeat, conceding to his rival. And I said, this is one of his most glorious moments. And so when they wanted to start recruiting again, what is this? Leave the man alone. He has wiped off a large portion of his deficit by quitting the way he did. Why are you wanting to bring him back? You bring him back, that means you bring me out. And then I will say, this man cannot come back. And then, of course, I become the issue. Not the person we're talking about. Not what he did when he was in power. Not when he stopped Oshomole's plane, turned it back in midair because Oshomole was going to campaign for somebody. See, people always forget things like that. And I keep saying, Buhari didn't win any election. Jonathan lost it. But that doesn't sink in it. You don't understand what that means.
But you might have a bit of a conflict this time, Prof. It's well known that one of the current candidates is very close to you. And you referenced it when you mentioned the General Sani Abacha, Nadeko, and so on days. He's more like your son, so to speak.
Yes, you're quite right. There is
a bit of...
No, there is a personal aspect, but he will tell you. For instance, is somebody whom there's no harm now revealing. Before I've made this statement, when midway between Buhari's first term, it was clear that it was a disaster. A disaster. And I went and met him. And I said, elections are coming. Please, find somebody else. Don't let Buhari get back in office. Not just him, a number of leaders in the APC. I said, this man is a disaster. Just get somebody. I said, we'll work with you. Because I wasn't going to touch the PDP for anything. You can, you're quite, especially the PDP of that time. I said, no politicians, the politician. We spoke for about an hour and a half and so on. At the end, I said, okay. I said, but for me, I'm going to give you my position. I said, let's have some new blood in the place. Let this country have a genuine change, etc., etc. So I say that to tell you on what level we are. We close, and I cannot forget. He's a very good man. It's unfortunate that some Obaiga characters keep putting words of praise in my mouth regarding him on the media. Well, Soyinka pays Tinubu tribute. I haven't said a thing about Tinubu since that meeting which I had with him just before the re-election of, a short time before the re-election of Buhari. No, we haven't even that. And yet, on the pages of something, people keep turning me into a praise singer, not knowing that they're doing him a disservice, because then I'm obliged to denounce it and say that this is a lie. I never said that. Much as I would like to say, in addition, look, he's my friend, we're close, as you're right, we worked together against Abacha, we ate together, drank together, plotted together. He moved from Nadeco to Nalicon, which was my own organization, you know, and I know what work he did. I know that he also has a very good brain, you know. And so there's no, but when it comes to political issues and choices, my position is still the same as I said to Atiku. When Atiku came to me, I told him, I said, look, you people, it's the time your generation left this stage. You know, I said, that's my position. I'm sorry. And we chatted, and that was it. Same way as I told Jonathan when we met, it's time you left the stage. Because you did this, you did this, you did this. In Lagos, go and ask Jonathan. So it's no different. I still respect Jonathan. I consider him, and I've never forgotten our first chat. I won't tell you. Ask him when we met in a co-hotel what he said to me when we had this chat.
Since you're mentioning that, let me ask about the Inyo conferences.
The what, sorry?
The Inyo conferences.
Inyo conferences.
That you had with General Obasanjo.
Yes.
Do you still have those conferences? Because I'm told that the late Professor Aboyade used to be the one who cooled the tempers after the conferences.
Yes, that's true. Yes.
So when he departed, did the conferences continue? And if so, how did you then temper down the animosity and the rage generated?
No, you see, you talked about Nigeria. You talked about the positives and the negatives. When people talk about Wole Soyinka, I'm very sure that the negatives will be heavy, but there will be a voice or two also who say, but wait a minute now. Didn't they also? So all of us were mortals, we're human beings. My problem with Obasanjo has been very straightforward. He likes to put people down to boost himself up. I'm not going to say more than that. And in the process, he sometimes utters deliberately untruths.
You wrote a book about that.
We talked about history. I'm a student of history. I'm a respecter of history. And when I've been part of a history, I cannot sit down and be silent when that part of the history is distorted. That's the most irresponsible.
Thank you so much, my wonderful viewers, for watching this video together with me from the beginning to the end. Like I said before, if you like what you see here, if you like what I do in this platform, as you have finished watching this video, please hit that red button that says subscribe and put on your notification bell to all notification. In that way, you'll be able to know when I upload a new video. Share my videos, leave your comments in the comment section constructively. Until I meet your way again in my next video, I still remain your Linda's TV show. Bye-bye.